All right, we're flowing. And Tara wants to replace me as the intro host. So I'm going to give her the opportunity to do that.
Can I
Be careful what you
parallel
wish for.
you?
You got to set the tone.
I don't want to replace you. I want to parallel you. I still want to hear you, but I am so energized. And I've been battling in my own brain this morning about the energy that I was coming to this pod with, because you're here and I love you. But Amy is here and I love her maybe a little more.
First time, second time, right? So first time we've had a second appearance.
Yes. Yeah. I had a horrible
We
night's
weren't just
sleep.
bullshitting when we said we'd love to have you back. We
No,
actually
it's
meant
for
that.
real. Like a standing guest. The power of people and environment, something we talk about all the time. I had a terrible night's sleep, but I woke up so energized because I knew I got to be with my buddy Paolo and Amy this morning and bring something to the world. And this really powerful question came to my mind for myself and for you guys and for others is, what are you doing with your gifts today? So what we're doing with our gifts today is bringing light to the world. We're bringing light to a subject that can often live in dark places. So I almost felt wrong to be pumped and happy about this because we're going to talk about a serious subject. And I want us to give a little disclaimer that we are going to be talking about addiction on this pod. So I ultimately landed with, I am psyched. I am happy. I am proud of us for bringing our flashlights this morning and shining light on an area that so many people struggle with. Some of us struggle with it as our own thing to handle and carry. And a lot of us struggle with it as watching someone that we love and care about carry something like this. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Paolo, but I'm just so honored and so proud of us and so happy for everyone that's listening right now, because this is what we are doing with our gifts today.
Absolutely. It's quite a timely episode because Conor McGregor is back fighting this weekend. By the time this comes out, we'll have the results of the fight would have happened. And very controversial guy, but he's come back. He hasn't publicly acknowledged his addiction. It was quite clear he was on cocaine, and he's battled his demons with alcohol, and he's come back, and it's really like seeing a new man, and the just that kind of peace that he has. And again, people can disagree with some of his actions in the past. I'm a big believer in giving someone a second chance, especially if they genuinely mean what they're genuine in their apologies and in their kind of new persona. But I hope, win or whatever the result is, that he continues on that path, because it's so nice to see someone just find some peace within themselves, having gone through some pretty terrible things in the last 5 or 6 years. But anyway, I really deliberately kind of we're going to talk about Casey's law. Is that right? I kind of deliberately kept myself quite ignorant of it because I wanted to hear, as if our listeners were hearing Amy talk about it. Do we want to do another intro for Amy, for anyone that hasn't heard the episode before? It's actually one of our most listened to episodes, actually. It's true. Numbers don't lie.
Validation. Yeah. I welcome Amy Zimmerman. Amy and I have been in a coaching relationship and turned into a friendship. I hope I'm allowed to say that, Amy.
Yes.
For the past several years, Amy leads a multi-million-dollar producing real estate team in Kentucky. They've expanded into Ohio. She is a leader at core to core. She is constantly pushing herself to grow as a human being, as a leader, as a wife, as a mother, as a daughter, as a friend. She is the example of the perfect client if you're a coach. She is the example of, to me, the perfect leader because she's willing to hear feedback. She's willing to make changes, and she's constantly evaluating, is she bringing to the world, to her team, to her family, her best? She hits challenges, she hits roadblocks, she freaking bursts through them, sometimes with a lot of help, sometimes with a little bit of help, sometimes just with what she's learned over the years. So I've had the honor of getting to peek behind the curtain of Amy's personal life and knowing that, and Amy, I'll let you tell as much or as little as you want to, but have a family member who struggles with addiction. And when you're coming from a parent standpoint, and that's the standpoint we're going to be talking about today, it's a very interesting and unique perspective and can feel quite helpless. And Amy found some tools to kind of take back some of the ability to provide help in a helpless scenario, or a lot of people would just throw their hands up. So Amy, welcome. And we know you're not an expert in this, but you're an expert in it as far as being a mother who's navigating this. So let's go.
Thank you very much. That was very complimentary. I don't know that I deserved all that.
Oh, you do. It's emotional. So we'll call it right now.
It's very emotional.
Yeah.
I have a son, Anthony, who's 29, and an honor student, a football player, all 4 years of high school. Got out of high school, got accepted into a good engineering school in our area. Didn't really finish his first semester, and bounced around from job to job, place to live, always struggling. And it took me a long time to come to the conclusion that there was an alcohol and drug issue. It's really hard as a parent to watch your child suffer and get to the point of homelessness and feel like there's nothing you can do. They won't talk to you. You can't get a hold of them. You're not even sure where they are. I mean, it's been a roller coaster. It had been a roller coaster for 10 years. And I remember this in 2024, he called me on Mother's Day and told me that his friend died of an overdose. And I remember thinking, oh my God, that poor mother. And he was very upset. I was upset. I didn't know his friend. I didn't know a lot. I didn't really know any of the people he was hanging around with anymore. But I kind of knew some places where he frequented a lot. So anyways, I don't know. It just set something off in me that I don't want to be that mom. And that summer, he was working, he off and on over the years, he's worked for a friend of ours. It's actually, he's a man now, but when he was younger, he babysat my boys. He was our neighbor. His mom is a good friend of mine, and he worked with him off and on over the years. And his boss called me and said, I think he's got a bigger problem. And but he wouldn't admit it. He wouldn't go get drug tested. And so our friend let him go from his job, and then would find him sleeping in his car at different places. So all those years I carried a lot of shame and guilt because I just thought as a mother I should be able to do more. And you question yourself, where did I go wrong? What could I have done differently? His father is an alcoholic. And we divorced after 20 years. Took me a while to figure it out. And when we divorced, it was right as Anthony was going into high school. And I think it had a huge impact on him, which it would. But I think, everybody copes differently. And I think at that time, he turned to smoking marijuana at a pretty young age, and then moved on to stronger things down the road. In the summer of 2024, we knew he was homeless, and I just kept thinking, what can I do? What can I do? I happened to go to a conference for eXp Realty. It was a new group they were forming called the Women's Impact Network. And it was in August in Austin, Texas. And I really went because I thought, well, I want to see what this is all about. I've never been to Austin. It's really hot in August, by the way. And it ended up it was a one-day basic seminar, and lots of speakers, lots of women who were agents talking about struggles that they've overcome. And after the lunch break, we got into these small groups and sat at these tables, and the topic was, what's your most important role as a woman? And the woman at my table, the first one that spoke, said, being a mom. And I started crying, and I could not stop. I was sobbing, and the other women at the table were trying to talk to me, and I was like, it's okay, it's okay. And I mean, they all kept talking. I can't even tell you what they said. Some of them, I don't remember their names even. But at the very end, Jessica Nieto, who's an EXP agent, looked at me and said, do you want to share anything? And I finally choked out that my son was suffering from addiction and he was homeless. And I didn't know where he was, and I was very worried about him. And I was at a table with an amazing group of women. Amazing. Almost every woman at that table shared a story about somebody in their family who was struggling with addiction, and really hard stories. And didn't make me feel like I was a bad mom. And that was kind of the turning point of letting go of my shame and guilt and saying, I have to do something here. When on the way back home in the airport, I talked to 2 local EXP agents that were on the trip and told them my story. And one of them said, I think you should share this with people and find people that will love and support you. And I started doing that. And that next weekend, I went to the chiropractor. I told a girl at the chiropractor's office, and she said to me, what about Casey's Law? And I was like, what is Casey's Law? And she said, you can get your kid into treatment. It's court ordered. And she said, look it up and read about it. She said, my neighbors, they had a daughter that had a drug problem, and they used Casey's Law, and they got her into treatment, and she's great now. So I started researching it, and my first attempt to get treatment did not work. You have to go to the county attorney's office, you file a petition, and then a judge has to sign it. Well, the judge wouldn't sign it because he said I didn't have enough information. And one of the big things was I didn't have an address where they could find Anthony because I didn't know where he was. So that was in September of that year, and I did tell myself, I just have to trust that somehow this is going to work out, that I'm going to find him. And I talked to our friend that was Anthony's employer, and he called me at Christmas time and said, have you heard from him? And I said, no. And I said, I'm very worried. And he said, I am too. He said, but I'm going to do some checking and I'm going to get back to you. So, he talked to some people that he knew that knew Anthony and gave me some information to help locate him. And I found his car. It was broke down, but through court. So anyways, I was able to go back to the courts and file another petition in January of 2025, and the judge signed it. And then what they have to do is serve him papers and say, you have to go get evaluated by a drug treatment center. You have to be talk to a counselor and meet with be evaluated by a doctor. And so the trick is the sheriff has to be able to serve the petition. So you got to be able to locate him. And they give you a hearing date, and we were getting close to that, and they had still not located him. So one morning I woke up, I was listening to the news. I heard about a series of overdoses over the weekend, and I was like, I have got to find him. And one of my customers who knew my story called me, I guess a few months prior, and said, "You're not going to believe this, but this lady came into my shop. I knew her daughter had struggled with drugs over the years." And she said, I asked her how her daughter was doing. She said, "She's doing great." And she said, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah, I used Casey's Law and I got her into treatment." And she goes, "What's that?" And the lady told her, and she said, "I'm a Casey's Law advocate." And Kelly said, "Well, my friend has a son that he's struggling." And she said, "Tell her to call me, I'll help her." So when I called her, she said, when you get that petition signed, you take it to every police department in the area, because if he gets picked up for something else, they'll have that petition, because it's not public record. It's like family court, and it's private. But if they have the petition and they know about it, they can bring him in. So I was watching that news that morning, and I was like, I need to go to this city where I knew the bar was, and he hung out a lot. And I said, I got to give it to the police there so they can see if they can find him there. And sure enough, 2 nights later, officer called me and said, we located him. We served him the petition. So we went to court, and I was kind of unprepared. You do testify. You get up on the stand. You talk to a judge. He asks a lot of questions. I had the county attorney who was my representation, and then he had a public defender. So whatever I said, I was able to convince the judge that he needed treatment, and he ordered him to 1 year of intensive outpatient therapy. And that in itself, that's a whole nother ball game, because then you have to find a place to put him. When you sign a Casey's Law petition, you do sign that you take financial responsibility for their treatment, which was a huge concern for me because I don't have unlimited funds. It can be very expensive. And what I learned from talking to other people and sharing my story is that if he doesn't have anything, he's an adult, he can get Medicaid coverage and it will cover it. But that was a series, again, of learning and talking to people, and, just by faith, God putting the people in my path that I needed to talk to and get the information from that could help me.
Let's take a breath.
So anyways,
you want to take a breath for, I would say we can take a breath for a second, because that's very, very powerful. And Paolo, you're hearing this for the first time. I'm hearing it for a second or third time, but for the first time kind of all together in a sequence. And I just want to kind of honor the fact that this is not you go online and you fill out a form and they go find your loved one and it's easy 1, 2, 3, right? You're now put in someone else's path, Amy, that needs to hear this. That's in a point in time to be, wow, I didn't know about the Medicare, or wow, I didn't know about this. So that was huge. And we're not going to end here, because we know that Amy didn't just receive a call from her son going, "Mom, you're the best mom in the world. I love you so much. Thank you. I'm perfectly healthy now. And I can't wait to take you to dinner," right?
I think his words were, "I will never speak to you again."
So I don't want to break your train of thought, but I just want to take a moment to kind of encapsulate the power of what you just said in the last 15 minutes. So, Paolo, any questions at the moment?
No questions, but I think it just speaks to two things, right? It speaks to the need for community, and there's this feeling of helplessness, right? And I kind of, as you're talking, I'm relating in some ways because of my younger son's autism and that feeling of kind of helplessness, and there's some shame, and you feel judged because, they're not normal. And just having a community, because so much of it is feeling helpless because you don't know that there's uncertainty, right? You don't know where to turn. You didn't know about Casey's law. And I just think it's amazing that just at the right times, it feels like people, as you said, God put people in your path that helped you. And then just the second thing was just that mother's intuition, right? You had that thought, I need to go to this place because this is where he'll be. And sure enough, yeah, and I'll just at this point it takes a lot to keep me and Tara quiet for 10 minutes, so speaks to the power of the story. But I just want to commend you on how brave you are, even just speaking about it, because I can't even imagine the emotions it stirs up. That you have to, and you're talking through it. I don't know, obviously choked up, but just I commend you for that. So please continue, because
Thank you.
I want to hear the rest, and hopefully we can inspire some others to help their families.
So I'll share a little bit about what I learned on the back end that maybe would help some other mom or family or loved one going forward. I think when you're searching for a treatment program, I was referred to a woman that ran a treatment program. And again, I am a beginner at all of this. And what I learned, though, is I put him in a program where it was kind of one woman was running the show, and there was not a lot of accountability. And in the state of Kentucky, the treatment programs are not necessarily regulated. So what I learned is that I would probably have put him in a different program. Now, thank God it's worked out. Anthony is clean and sober and doing really well. And he's
How
speaking
old
to
is
me
he now?
again. He's 29. He'll be 30
Okay,
in September.
understood.
Yeah.
So how old was he when this all occurred?
28.
Oh,
Well,
it's that recent.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So one thing I do know about addiction from my own experience and things I've read and people I've talked to, typically the age someone develops an addiction is the age they stop developing emotionally. So if you think about, he started using at 17, and I would say at times he was functioning and maybe not using as much, but never really got his life off the ground or, got a start in life. And so he, in a lot of ways, he was still like a 17 or 18-year-old. And I think that summer when he was homeless, and I thought he's going to turn 28 this year. It's been 10 years since he got out of high school, and he is smart. He's handsome. He's got a heart of gold. I mean, he was my sensitive kid, and even though he was a football player, he was a teddy bear. And when I'm married for the second time, and at my wedding, I remember he got up and asked. He asked my mother-in-law to dance, and she was so excited and talked about that for several years after we were married. Like, I just love Anthony. He's the one that came up and asked me to dance at your wedding. But that's who he is, and that's who I wanted to give back. So I think what part of my message today is when I kind of let go of my guilt and shame and started talking to people, it made a huge difference. And then I just got brave and started asking questions. And that was a big turning point. And then the other thing was my expectations. When I talked to people and said, I went to court and I got my son into treatment, and they were like, oh, he's going to thank you someday. And I thought, he is, because he's going to get better and, his life's going to be better. And it doesn't quite work like that. I know he loves me. He knows I love him. We still have some work to do because we had many years where we didn't have a relationship. Not that I didn't love him or wasn't trying to find him or locate him or have a relationship, but it's hard for an addict. You just can't have a an honest relationship when you're an addict. So I think learning that things just don't change overnight, and that it's a process. And I needed to change some of the things that I did in my communication with him, so that he would speak to me. So the other thing I'll share, which I just think is, I don't know, it's ironic, it's crazy. Casey's Law is now in 38 states, including DC. But it started in 2002 with a lady named Charlotte Weatherington, who lost her son Casey to a heroin overdose. And she decided that she wanted to do something about it. And she went to the Kentucky legislature and got them to pass this law. And since then, all these other states have adopted it. And through a course of talking to other people, I found out that she lives like 2 neighborhoods away from me. I had no idea. So I have written to her. I found her address. I have written to her and let her know that what a wonderful thing she's done, that she did out of tragedy. I mean, her son's not here, and yet she's helping other families.
Just as you shared the breakdown at the table with the women, again, I'm going to just highlight environment, where you didn't even hear what the other women were saying. You choked it out, and that started the ball rolling. And the podcast started off with a few tears, but if you've experienced something like this in your life, that gap between the being able to kind of eke out through intense emotion what's going on, to getting to the point where you can come on a podcast and speak openly to it. There's a big gap there that you have come through. And every time you tell the story, every time you share it with someone, you share help with someone, you share something you've experienced, it becomes more and more powerful. I wish we could take the tears that come in those moments, especially for mothers and fathers, if we could analyze the power in those tears, the emotion in those tears, from shame to literally you would move mountains. I don't know if there's anything more authentic and real than that. And that's why it's so powerful.
Definitely.
So I want to make sure, Paolo.
No, I was just saying, talking of environment, we actually touched on this briefly last episode. What kind of advice can you give to families or even friends of those who have struggled with addiction and their reintegration into society, having gone through either outpatient or inpatient rehab? Because we know that the environment can trigger behavior, or it can have a positive impact on behavior. What kind of things, or in your experience, have you found that have been helpful with that? And even, as you mentioned, just the way you communicate with someone can have a big impact, right? Any kind of actionable tidbits for folks who are listening that have gone through similar things?
For me as a mom, and I'm a, hard working, hard driving, I'm going to get this done kind of person. I think my way of doing things is obviously not his way of doing things. And by trying to impose on him, you should do this and that, it made the communication even more difficult, and then completely stop at times. He had to find his way. I will also, as far as what I know, I don't know everything about every step he's taken, but I do know from talking to, I have, people I go to church with that are recovering alcoholics. And one of them has said to me a million times, it's easy. You just have to find all new friends and start your life all over again. And it's true. I mean, when you think about their environment, if they go back to hanging around with the same group of people, they're going to be doing the same thing over and over again. Um, so he works the Al-Anon or the AA program. I do Al-Anon. He does the AA program, and I think that is a really great network of people that have been through what you've been through, supportive, loving, that kind of thing. And I've heard many people say that over the years. And I've also heard people say when they quit working the program, they got into trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, you just touched on environment, two sides, right? One for the person who's in recovery, and one for the you, right? Al-Anon
Yeah.
and AA, and the importance
Yeah.
of having good supportive environments on both sides.
It's funny, and I think I've even said it myself this past episode, that word recovery, because there's something about it that kind of makes it feel like there's a taboo around that person, right? They're always in recovery. Maybe we could be the pioneers of this. Do we think there's a better word or a better phrase that can describe someone who has gone through that and is now rebuilding their life? Do you know what I mean? Like recovery, and again, I've said it. It's not, is there a better way? Because it almost makes it feel like that person is and yes, they are. They're always fighting and always working through it, but it kind of makes it feel like it's never going to go away, and it almost has a bit of a negative connotation to it.
I don't know. I know that's the word they use in
Right.
AA. I'm in recovery, or I've been sober or this is my sober date, or my sober date. This is my sober date, 10 years, whatever the case may be. I think, again, I'm not an expert. I think, but what they teach them is that this is a lifelong, what's the right word? It's something that you are going to do for the rest of your life. When you have an addiction, to be in recovery, you have to work at it the rest of your life. You can't go back to, I'll have a drink here and there. It's something that you have to do for the rest of your life. So maybe that's why they use that word. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
when I talk to people who say they're in recovery, I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful thing. I understand it. I will tell you, not all people understand addiction. And I even had some close family members that were not very supportive. Why are you doing this? You need to worry about you. But it wasn't their kid.
Right.
And so I'm sure there are people, friends that I've had who didn't agree with what I was doing. But it's what I thought was the best thing to do.
That's a really, really amazing point. Sometimes people don't agree with what we're doing because it's too much of a mirror, and there's potentially some places in their life where they didn't do what you were doing and they justified it. Doesn't make it right or wrong, but there's always that, what if I had done more, right? So it becomes harder to just write someone off and the challenge is off when you see someone that's still continuing to pursue tackling them. I think the word recovery is, if we're just talking about normal language, you're in recovery and then you're healed, right? There's a next step. So when we're talking about it in the terms of addiction, it's like, well, you're in lifelong recovery. Well, that kind of feels, for us on the outside, well, when am I healed, right? And maybe you are already healed. And are we all in recovery from our childhood traumas? And we work through things, but when something's kind of set there and we can work with it, we can embrace it, we can own it, we can all of those things, but perhaps every human being in the world is in recovery. That's past the age of like 12 years old. but I understand. I think we like to kind of shun labels, because there's so much brevity within a word. But I think if it's empowering to someone and that feels good to be like, I'm in recovery, run with it. If there's a different word or different feeling around it, I think it's an interesting concept. I agree with you, Paolo. Like, okay, I'm in recovery and now I'm a healed recoverer. Or I read this in a book the other day, and it stuck out to me so much. I was never the wound, and I was always the healer. Like, you're not your wound, you're the healer of yourself.
Yeah.
So to me, that almost feels like the wound feels like the recovery, the healer feels like the person that you've emerged as, that you are and always have been. So it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy road to tackle. It is perhaps only a road a mother or father is capable of tackling. You have to not give a shit about what other people are thinking, judging, saying. And this is a very silly, light, not comparison, but I think it's a good kind of light version of a mother or father's love. I was in the pool with Alexander the other day. I've gotten over I don't want to be in a bathing suit in public in front of people. I'm in the pool. I'm having a good time. My hair's up in a clip. He's like, huh. He's looking at me funny. I'm like, why are you looking at me? He goes, your hair looks like wet dog poop. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, it looks like wet dog poop. And I was like, well,
Yeah,
that
it's
makes
all right.
me
I don't
feel,
want to say anything, but
that makes me feel embarrassed. He goes, well, you shouldn't be embarrassed, Mom. That's very normal for girls your age. And you know what? If a boyfriend, a significant other had said that to me, I would be so pissed off and like,
Yeah.
who the hell? But all I could do is laugh, right? And like, he's my son and I adore him. And he wasn't coming from bad intentions. But the way that we are with our children, the way that we hear and receive our children, the way that we allow our ego to be totally annihilated for our
yeah.
children is such a special and amazing gift. From the silly little comments to the I'm going to do whatever it takes, regardless of what other people think, to know that when I'm hitting my head is hitting the pillow at night, even though I might not know where my son or daughter is, even though I might know where they are and they're in a really bad place, that I did what I could that day to try to get them in the right direction, while also taking care of myself as a man or a woman, taking care of my responsibilities as a business owner, as a leader, as a wife, as a husband, as all the other things that you have to manage along with something that can completely occupy your time, energy, and effort. So I think, Amy, I think a powerful share, if you have one around it, is how did you take those steps and also run your business and show up in other ways without just getting into bed and like pulling the covers over your head, or like sitting outside that bar 24/7, waiting for him to show up?
Wow, there's a lot of things. One, thanks to you, Tara, my coaching helped tremendously. Journaling, which you helped me with that when I started it, and going to the gym every day, getting my exercise. So I did do things to take care of myself. I was not totally consumed with this. I did run my business. I think my business has been a great outlet because I get to be around people, work with people all day long, help other people. But when the opportunity arose and there was something I could do that might help Anthony, I did it. It's, that counterbalance you talk about. You just find a way without losing yourself.
Because you're no good to anyone if you've lost yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think self-care is not a luxury, it's a responsibility, especially when you're dealing with something like this. it can be very easy for that to be the first thing that goes by the wayside. And then you lose your power, you lose your energy, you lose your ability to really show up at the level that you need to show up at. And nervous system, right? Just that physical movements, that releasing, and Paolo can speak to this. I think I just saw a Bambino come into the screen for a
You did.
second.
You did.
The importance of this is not just a mindset of like, I'm a strong or courageous mother, or I'm a strong and brave father, right? This is a physical requirement to be connected to your body
Yeah.
and fueling yourself in all of the ways that you're capable of, from food to movement to, and Paolo, I'd love for you to jump in here. What can you
yes,
do?
all of the above. The movement's very, very important. The food you're putting into your body. I think the sleep habits is probably the number one thing, because if you're not going to sleep well, and it's very difficult to sleep when you have things on your mind. So, getting practical. I always say set your sleep routine starts the minute you wake up. Just getting outside, getting in the sun will do you wonders. And I mean, I even went, my mother's in her last few days, not to bring the mood down even more, but Wednesday we got the news that we were turning her feet off. So it was kind of like, felt like it was the real beginning of the end. And I went and did some cardio and I felt great afterwards. And it really is powerful just to move, get the blood flowing. And that physically does help you. You're getting all the toxins moving and all of that stuff. But yeah, to me, it's that sleep routine, right? Get enough sleep, start the day with sunlight, avoid coffee for at least, I like to wait 45 minutes, let your cortisol rise naturally. So then you have a natural kind of curve through the day. But yeah, big things, big little things you can do like that. And before I have the microphone, I want to kind of challenge our listeners, because we've talked about what it's like to be the person in Amy's position. I want people to think about how they treat, look at, even listen to people going through stuff like that. And then question why you have the reaction that you do. Because I face this a lot with health stuff. Particularly, I challenge a lot of the traditional things because I look at my mother, I look at my son, and things don't add up, right? We're not doing the right things. And people get very abrasive and reactionary when I question certain narratives and things like that. And as you said, Taurus, because we're holding a mirror up, that means that I made that choice. That means I'm wrong. Or, I went to school and got this degree. So therefore, I think the person who went to that school and got that degree knows what they're talking about. If they don't know what I'm talking about, do I not know what I'm talking about? So I want people to just step back and really think about why their reaction is to say that's the wrong thing, or don't do that, or you should let him do this, or make her do that. Just kind of question why you feel that way, and maybe it's something that you're doing and you need to internally work on that kind of led you to that feeling.
Yeah. Also, I think giving people permission, because that's a great point, Paolo, and giving people permission to not have the answers. I think often addiction and can feel very lonely from the addict and the people around them, because people don't want to bring up something sensitive. They think, oh, I see you out. I don't want to bring that up because I don't want to upset you. They're probably thinking about it, but they don't say something. And then you're thinking, this person is a friend and they're not even asking me, like, do they even care? But people will avoid asking because they don't have the solution. They're afraid to bring up something emotional. And that was something that I heard with you, Amy. And as I'm thinking about even my own life experience, it's not that people are coming from a bad place. They're afraid. When someone doesn't have a solution, they often go silent, and that silent is even worse. And the gift is that you don't have to have the answers. All you have to do is hold a little bit of safe space for a few moments, for 30 minutes, for 60 seconds. I think, Amy, if you could speak to that for a second, where would you have actually rather had people say, hey, how's Anthony doing? Or, hey, how are you doing around this versus the silence? Because what can the silence feel like?
And I've obviously done a lot of counseling, and my counselor at the time said, find your tribe, Amy. Find the people who love and support you no matter what, and rely on them. And I did.
Yeah.
And I even, in my own family, my husband, Rich, who was my wholehearted supporter through the whole thing. What do you need me to do? I basically, at one of our family dinners, said, this is what's going on, and I want you guys to ask me about Anthony. I don't want to pretend like he's not here. He's gone.
Yeah.
I want you to ask me about him because he's my son and I still love him. So, and that was, and some of them said, we hate to ask you about it because we know it makes you sad.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to be sad either way.
Yep.
But if I know that people love and support me and can show some understanding and compassion, it makes a huge difference.
Yes. So that right there, letting people know how they can support you is so, so important. So many people live in resentment and anger and disappointment and just hurt, right? It's hurt that's under all of it because we believe that people should know us or they should know how they can support us. But often we just need to let them clearly know this is what I need. And they're happy to provide it. So many, God, especially like in the Italian culture, and I can't speak to other cultures, but there's so many relationships that are literally dead. That person's dead to me because someone didn't know what to ask or someone said the wrong freaking word or, it's just, and as children, we're told like, we tell our children no a lot, so that teaches them don't speak up for what you need. You're having an emotion. No, you're not having an emotion. You're fine. You're not fine. We're emotional beings. And if we can not get to the reactive point where people, the big emotions come out, if we can kind of acknowledge the emotion and what we need and let people know around us, like, this is what I need right now. Whether they understand it or not, that's not their job. Their job is, I love this person. I want to support this person. This is what they're telling me they need. If it's not taking away from me in a hurtful way, why would I not show up that way? But
Very
we have
true.
to let people know what we need. And we also have to be like, that could be changing. 6 months ago, a year ago, I kind of needed this. Now through the evolution, now I need something different. And that's how we have those powerful circles and communities. And then knowing that there's some people that just aren't going to show up the way we need them to, and that's okay. And we can release them. We can keep them in our environment wherever we choose. And that's on us. And it can be done in a really beautiful, loving way, not a big blow up way. And I think that you really have been an example of grace for a lot of that. And maybe
Hopefully.
not, and grace in many places and maybe absolute disaster in others. And that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I will say it's a roller coaster. I've learned so much and I've grown so much in the last couple years. And I think you said something about people always want to fix things for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have learned that I can't fix everything for everybody. And so sometimes I just have to listen and tell them I'm sorry. Or I'll keep you in my prayers. That, you don't have to fix it. You just have to be there for them.
That has huge impact. I've got my lobster here, right? Anyone who has heard me coach before, right? The struggle is the gift.
Yes.
So when you steal the struggle from other people, that's not what we're looking to do. Just it's coming alongside people that are growing. The lobster has to shed its shell, the thing that protected it, and has to go to a really vulnerable place to do that and a safe place to do that. So as leaders, as parents, as friends, as family, as whatever it might be, if you can hold that space for someone to do what they need to do in those moments. And often that's just being heard. And that's where I like the helped, heard, or hugged, right?
Yeah.
When my son was coming to me, I'm constantly trying to fix it. And he said to me, Mom, I don't need you to fix it. Like, I just need you to hear me, right? And that turned into when I read the 5 types of wealth. Sahil Bloom talks about helped, heard, or hugged. Starting it off, you're coming to me with something. Okay, my brain is honestly going to go right to solutions mode. You might not be wanting that. I'm just actually going to upset you when I do that. So I'll just ask, do you need me to help you right now find a solution? Do you just need me to hear you? Or do you just need me to give you a hug and go about your day without even talking? That has been one of the most powerful things. And I have to always remind myself because I'm instantly going into solutions mode. But when someone says, I just need to be heard or I just need a hug, I get to relax. I get to turn that part of my brain off like, oh, I don't have to take responsibility for this. I can lead and show up just by hearing you, really hearing you, or just by putting all of my love, everything that I can into that embrace. I'm going to pour it all into you and then send you off. And you know that I'm here if you need to come back.
I think that's a great message. That is a great message. Perfect.
Cool. Well, Paolo, I know I think you had maybe some kiddo things to switch around. You here with us?
Well, yeah, now he's just turned my light off. He pulled my microphone out, so the sound's gone.
I have to say, I'm actually loving this.
I'm getting bullied.
You're getting bullied. So we're talking about our children right now. We're talking about the power of parenting. And I love that Paolo has his son in there who is wreaking havoc. And he is staying calm, cool, and collected as best he can.
We're gonna get him when this is done.
It's like a parent, like we're never like recovery, right? We're never not a parent. And
True.
from the little babies that they are to God, I'm going to be turning 50 and I still feel like a little girl to my mother sometimes, right? Like I will always be her child. So this is the gift that we get, the growth that only these powerful relationships can bring us. And now I'm going to get emotional. But it really, like, this is the point of life. This is the point of life, to continue to learn and grow and learn lessons and become better, and then turn around and share it and speak it. And Amy, we've been talking about this podcast for a while, and it was like, okay, I need a couple months. And you probably would have given the option, maybe taken a couple more months, but that's the power of having, like, I'm like, no, let's get it scheduled. And then you showed up. Thank you for trusting me and us and Paolo to hold this space.
You've been a huge help throughout this process. Thank you.
It's an honor. It's an honor. And what you give back to me in the process is tenfold. So this is the gift that we have. And for our listeners, I'm going to ask you the same powerful question I asked myself this morning and asked my social media. What are you doing with your gifts today? We have impact. We have the ability to shine light in the darkest places of this world. You are not alone. You are responsible to find community and reach out, even if it's just a very, very first step. Eke the words out through the tears, through everything else. It's going to be the most powerful thing that you can do. It's an honor and a pleasure, Amy. Thank you so much. I love you both.
Thank you.
Until next time, friends. Bye for now.